What's the show called?
I was just going to call it the Root Cause Show.
No,
Creative. But I thought it would stick with the brand. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Root Cause Show. I'm Rod Boothby, co-founder and chief product officer.
Hi, I'm Ayman, co-founder and chief exec.
Hi, I'm Nicolas, current intern at RootCause.
Today, what we're looking at is how people can use the root cause engine to understand things. So we're going to give you some quick demos, and our purpose over time is to allow more people to come in, use the platform, and discover interesting insights. The case study that I've got today is from a Kaggle data set about health insurance charges. And it's really interesting. I showed up in the environment. I loaded the data to begin with. The data is really simple. It's just the age of the patient, sex, BMI, whether they have children, whether they are a smoker, where they live, and then the charges that they've incurred over time for health insurance. If we take a look at the ontology, it's very simple. And then if we create the digital twin, we get something that looks like this. The region has an impact on the BMI. The BMI has an impact on total health insurance charges. So does age. And so does being a smoker. And the cool thing that I found out about this as I was kind of looking it up was running a simulation on it and asking a simple question. So let's bring up the simulation. What if we run an intervention where we say that people don't smoke? And what it showed over here, down here, is that given that smoking causes an impact or has a causal impact on the health insurance charges of the individual, the average individual, if they didn't smoke, would see charges drop from $12,700 down to $4,400. That's how much it costs on an annual basis from a health insurance expense perspective to be a smoker. So this is proof that smoking damages your health and that it causes, if you look at it the other way around, higher health costs.
Well, it makes sense, right? I mean, it's the leading cause of multiple second-order health impacts and that's something the insurance companies are going to have to deal with. So it makes sense. It's one of the leading drivers of charges. I'm sure if you pull up the Sankey diagram, Rod, can take a look and see how much impact it has relative to the other things. And we can see that smoking has, if you just collapse it quickly as well, you can see the relative strengths of the relationships in the variables just right in the middle of the screen there. And there's age, smoker, and BMI. And well, they're ranked pretty much there. That you can see that smoking has the biggest impact, BMI has the second most, and age has the third most.
Yep.
So it's quite evident that there's a hierarchy that the insurance companies are using to apply premiums. The other interesting thing we should look at is the probabilities of what does the model actually learn about the kind of relationships that we see, and like what for example, if you select one of the edges, maybe between BMI and
okay, sure.
Yeah, it's very, very interesting where we can figure out where the model discovers the inflection point almost of where the majority of customers of this insurance company or whatever insurance survey this is, you can see there's an inflection point at that charges 33,670 and 59, where it's almost a distribution of is that BMI looks normally distributed. It's a bell curve. It's Gaussian. Yep. And you can see either side of it, it kind of leans and it shows that the lower charges are mostly dominated by people with lower BMIs, and then the higher charges mostly dominated by people with higher BMIs. So the models identified something that's quite intuitive for us, and it's showing us that typically when you see the higher charges, it's of course the more you go further out the more extreme charges, you'll find that the distribution is very strongly left-tailed, and you'll find that the most people are high BMI, which means it must be that they're really not taking care of their health. But the closer you get to the other side and to more reasonable charges, the more it balances out, and there's a wider distribution of the kind of people that could be charged, irrespective of their BMI, and it could be due to the other factors.
And this is interesting because this BMI of around 25, the kind of center of this thing, that's kind of the average healthy BMI that they want you to be at, is sort of around 25, somewhere in there.
Yeah. We know that the male average BMI is between 25 and 30. I think the last time I checked, at least, and it makes sense.
Maybe let's look at the smoking one and see if that looks the same.
Oh, that tells a very interesting story, doesn't it? The higher charges are exclusively dominated by smokers, and the lower charges, there's almost like two separate distributions there, where there's a Gaussian distribution for on the lower end of the scale for non-smokers, and there's another one for the higher end. And these are actually plots, if you notice, that these are plots that showing smoking yes and smoking no. So it shows that they're really that the insurance companies see them as a completely different class of individual when they're trying to determine their charges. That's very interesting. Probably a lot more interesting than the BMI one. It really shows that is really the biggest factor that they're taking into account in this data set that we're looking at least.
That's fascinating. Cool. Well, that's one example of what you can use root cause to do to understand the data. If you find this interesting, if you'd like to analyze some data using causal inference, using automatic ontologies already put in place, and running sophisticated simulations to find out what would happen if your environment behaves differently or you take different actions, reach out. We'd love to have you on the show. We'd love to give you access to the platform and learn together.
Thanks for having me on, Rob.
Thanks. Talk to you guys later. Be well. Bye-bye.